Today, we're making money moves with Harper's Bazaar Arabia, eating lobster with Vogue Portugal, and breaking mirrors with L'Officiel Homme. My name is Marco, welcome to the Model Gene, and if you're ready to dissect this month's covers, hit that like button and let's get started on November's Battle of the Covers. Starting off with Vogue US, we have Nicole Kidman, Greta Lee, and Ayo Edebiri. For Nicole's cover, besides the obvious over-retouching on her face, we have some other things I would change. Whenever we have exposed C-stands and equipment as a shorthand for it being an edgy move, I'm already bored, but my biggest issue is the colors. Black belt, brown dress, blue background, gray floor, white text, dark gold logo. I understand the blue is supposed to contrast with the warmness of her dress, but I think there is just a bit too much conflict in the image, and that the statement is more digestible with a warm-toned background. I don't love her pose here. We've completely lost one arm. The way her other hand is positioned doesn't elongate her silhouette. Nicole wore this Balenciaga gown to the Met Gala, inspired by this photograph of Lisa Fonsegrèves, and this pose would much better suit this cover as well. I often like Carlijn Jacobs, but this isn't my favorite cover from her. Ayo's cover is my favorite of the three, and although I would have preferred her face more frontal to the camera and more personality from her, the textures in the dress and the jewelry are nice and the lighting is pretty. Greta's cover is the most pedestrian. Without this elaborate coat, it would look like a shot on iPhone fit check. Gwyneth Paltrow covers British Vogue. I'm not blown away by the cover or any of the images from the editorial. The lighting on the cover is very flat. It looks like the midtones were raised to reduce the contrast, but I prefer this with a stronger punch, especially if they were trying to use the drink and her nails to create some contrast. Miss Goop is not gagging or gooping the children in this cover. Mia Goth covers Vogue Italia. Armpits retouched to oblivion in this 70s dream haze. I think it would have helped to have more separation between her hair and the dark floor, because as it is, it looks like she has dark, short, curly hair and is laying right next to a pile of light brown curly hair. All it would take is one rim light and I think the photo would already be better. Miley Cyrus covers Vogue France. I think this is one of her better covers. She looks deeply dropped into this character. A wig will help you do that. Very Hannah Montana of her, and I like that we do have a story going on here. The giant hotel key she is holding is the perfect storytelling element to quickly signal there is something more going on to be explored in the editorial, a smart addition to the photo. In the rest of the editorial, I much prefer the photos with the curly wig, simply because we have seen her many times at this point with the slicked back, wet hair look, being shot in a very Helmut Newton way. She looks great in this Gucci feather look, and I really applaud the styling in this photo with the boxing gloves. The Fendi dress with this hat are very traditional, but the flexing pose and boxing gloves subvert the expected. Overall, I think this is a great shoot by Mario Sorrenti and the rest of the team at Vogue France. Alexis and Agatha Gutierrez cover Vogue Philippines for their art issue. An interesting image, but not my favorite. This red dress sculpture in the foreground is throwing off the storytelling that I see with the two subjects. I think the cover is stronger without it. I like the shine on Agatha's hair. It would have been nice to see it at the same level on Alexis with an additional light. I actually much prefer this image for the cover. We have the artwork in the background, but it isn't competing for attention in the same way. I also like the difference in expression between Alexis and Agatha, the way Alexis's bare arms break up the red of the image. Although it's not my favorite cover this year from Vogue Philippines, they have a really high standard, and I think it's better than most magazines this month. Vogue Portugal has 3 covers this month for the Art of Living issue. A rather open-ended prompt, but this image is my favorite of the 3. This reminds me of the last years of work from Irving Penn with Phyllis Posnick at American Vogue, where they would cover trending topics like plastic surgery, wellness, through provocative imagery. There's so much going on in this image to break apart, but that intelligence comes in the execution. The use of reflection is one of the biggest unifiers, the metallic blanket, the lacquer of her heels, her sunglasses, even her lip gloss. The green light signals sci-fi, cutting-edge technology, even a hint of alien spookiness, which is always a part of emerging skincare trends. It was also a great decision to echo how her face is framed in the triangle by creating that triangle again with her legs. The photo with the phonograph is a 180-degree shift from the other cover, showing the duality of how living well today involves stepping back from modernity in favor of nostalgia. I would have loved if her body was illuminated more so we didn't have a floating head, but the strength of this photo is capturing a mood instantly. This photo is conveying the warmth of a cozy fireplace with some beautiful music playing. The last photo has a deliberate vulgarity to it, posing with a symbol of wealth, sweaty, messy. If the previous cover is projecting cozy, in this one I can smell the cigarettes and alcohol. There's a much more chaotic energy. Gabriette covers V magazine. Unfortunately, Stephen Klein is on the list of photographers who peaked 20 years ago and has been unable to find the magic since then. His work used to be so charged with energy, This feels flat and boring. Her hair is great, as are the nails, but the photo looks like something an American girl in her early 20s that is studying abroad in Paris would take after getting her first fur coat from a vintage store. Adut Akech covers Vogue Australia, a lovely cover this month from the magazine. Besides the beautiful lighting, this cover does a good job at encouraging the eye to travel. Her twisted hair, how her arms are posed, even the way the baby is posed are all moving your eye around the image. I'm sure Adut will be cherishing this cover for capturing a special moment in her life. The accompanying editorial is beautiful as well. My favorite image is her in this wedding dress. The shapes here are very pleasant, she is twisting and bending to add movement, and I like the shadow created by the layers of the dress. Yura covers Vogue ADRIA. I never imagined I would be saying this, but Vogue ADRIA has my favorite cover of the month. The gender bending here is such an unexpected direction for a very socially conservative part of the world. Yura has a beauty that reminds me of Andrea Page, one that isn't bound by the constraints of male or female, but rather an embrace of the space between. There is an element of the cover that reminds me of John Sargent's Madame X, especially in the skin and how painterly it looks. The flowing hair, the highlight in the eyes, the uniqueness of the colors that echo an aged patina, there's just so much to love here. Yura's dance background is in full effect in the editorial. You will not find a sickled foot in these pages. My favorite image is still the cover, but congratulations to Elizaveta Porodina, it's some of her best work yet. Elle Fanning covers Vogue Hong Kong, and this is super Edie Campbell coded. In fact, I thought it was the British model before realizing it was Elle. We are losing her neck in this position with the high collar of her shirt, but besides that, I like the pose and the angle differentiation of her feet. In the second cover, again, lack of neck is throwing the photo off. It would have looked better if her front shoulder was dropped. Also, I would have used a different color shirt to create separation between her hair. Jeremy Allen White covers Interview magazine, a conservative but nice portrait that feels more bold with their use of color for the background and text. In the editorial, we get some really wonderful gems, like this photo in the rain. The cars are dating the image, but everything else has a timeless rock and roll energy to it. Here as well, he is exuding a coolness, and I love the colors of the image, how his skin looks against the blue jeans and green shirt. Jeremy Allen White really shines on location. You can see he is playing a character, but in studio where he has to be a model, the magic is lost. Josh O'Connor covers GQ, a lovely cover of him. Menswear styling is usually incredibly boring, but I like everything that he is wearing and what it brings to the photo. I love a prop that gives the subject something to do with their hands, and it also makes the photo feel more authentic and less posed. Very often, photographers will approach a shoot with a separate idea of what they want to shoot as the part of the story, and then shift to, now we are shooting the cover. But looking at this editorial, I think there were many options for the cover and a less rigid approach. This portrait was probably a cover option. I'm guessing the red, but cropped in a bit, and I love this portrait as well. Across the images, I love the softness and warmth of the light that gives a vintage feeling without looking overdone and kitsch. Well done to everyone who worked on this shoot. Charlie XCX covers Vanity Fair, and I really love this cover and shoot for her. It is such a departure from the brat summer coated aesthetic, showing the singer in a different, more polished and glamorous way. There's a bit of a blur that makes it look like an oil painting rather than a super sharp digital photograph. Especially in the pop music industry, reinvention is the key to longevity, so this was a very smart pivot for her, and probably the nicest of her covers to date. Vogue Brazil has 4 covers for November, simple but effective. As soon as I saw the sand in the background with this wind-blown curly hair, it immediately made me think of Versace's spring 1993 campaign by Richard Avedon. This was back when designers trusted and hired photographers for their artistic vision, rather than hiring someone to execute a focus group determined, boring and bland campaign that merely shows product. Anyway, back to the covers. I honestly like them all. The slight asymmetry of Sheila's collar is perfect. I love the lighting and how there is a bit of highlight coming off her right cheekbone, so we don't lose all the detail in the shadow. Comparing Louisa and Carol's cover, just this slight difference of Carol's hand position makes me gravitate more to this cover, but the other is nice as well. In the group cover, we really get to see the difference in their personality. Louisa's face has a more sweet sadness in the expression, Sheila is more calm and strong, and Carol has a more fiery intensity. We do lose some detail in the space between Sheila and Carol, but I think it is a beautifully composed group shot where the models are working together instead of competing. Dakota Johnson covers Vogue Germany, and although a woman in an oversized suit is Model Test Shoot 101, it's a cute cover. The most visually interesting elements are the way the stripes of her shirt and the plaid of the suit are playing with the layers of fabric. The part that sticks out in the wrong way is her lower hand. Beyond the unflattering position with all of her fingers in a line like that, the color is much darker than her raised hand, despite the cuff of both sleeves being the same color and exposure. To me, it looks like a Photoshop masking error, but besides that, it's a very decent cover. Greta Hofer covers Vogue Polska. I don't love her expression here. I don't know what she is trying to project, but the emotion I'm reading is teetering between disgust and disdain. Besides that, the photo is very clean, the light is very flattering, but the real stars are not on her face, they are the photos inside the editorial. Here we have a proper fashion story, gorgeous photos on location, like this one. I want to go to the cinema to see this movie. Some photographers are intimidated by location shoots, but clearly Ina Levy thrives. We also have some studio shots as well. Nothing bad about them, but they just don't compare to the other photos that are deeply enriched by their setting. Gracie Abrams covers Vogue ESPAñA. It's an okay cover, but not my favorite. When you're shooting these super high contrast studio covers, I don't think an open mouth works very well because it starts to look like she is missing teeth. The texture on the hat is nice. She is a stunning beauty. I just don't think it's her best cover. Olivia Dean covers Elle Serbia. I'm very impressed that this magazine is delivering this good of a cover. The skirt photographs really well. The twisted little croissant detailing makes me hungry and feeds the eye. And the set design is on point. Would I prefer this cover without the floral detail covering her neck? Yes, but I still think this is a great cover. Cindy Crawford covers Harper's Bazaar France, and I find it really shocking that someone would take this opportunity, shooting one of the most famous models of all time, and think, let's cover 1/3 of her face with sunglasses and take a paparazzi photo of her. The magazine is trying to overwhelm the image with text to distract from the blandness of the cover, but you did not fool me. Kai Schreiber covers Harper's Bazaar Italia. I hate this cover. The profile position of her body is unsettling. It doesn't look like there's a human form underneath, just a floating head. The lipstick looks like she was sucking on a blueberry popsicle with a glass of red wine, especially around the corners of her mouth. It is very unpleasant. Maybe the most egregious error is the way the retoucher poorly masked out her hair when they put in this background. It looks so crunchy and amateur. Does the magazine not have the budget to print out an A0 size poster to photograph the model in front of, rather than doing it in Photoshop? Everything here reads as sloppy, but maybe all they cared about was that the model had famous actor parents, so let's just do whatever and no one will care. Numero Netherlands has 13 covers for their 13th issue. Lots of bad, but some with redeeming qualities. I love Aaron O'Connor, but this cover is forgettable and unnecessary. Scott Eastwood's cover has really unflattering lighting that flattened out his nose and instantly changed his face for the worse. Isla Fisher's cover, bad, messy, but I honestly could see this exact set, styling, and subject being great with more dramatic lighting rather than this flatness. The Matière Fécade cover, I don't mind, but it looks more like an accompanying press image than a fashion editorial. Of all the covers, this Fallen Angel cover of Caesar has the most potential if it was executed with more finesse, but I am inundated with distractions. My eye immediately goes to the marks on his knee. I'm not sure if they had him in knee pads or what exactly, but they could have at least photoshopped them out. The next distraction, the 2 watches. I am so tired of seeing this nonsensical over product placement in covers. A bracelet would have made more sense, but 2 watches is annoying. I don't know how long they had the poor boy in this position, but long enough to where the blood has been rising to his face. Forehead veins are bulging. I can ignore all the rings on his hands, but I wish there was more consistency with the whites. His shoes and shirt are warmer toned than the wings, underwear, and socks. This is a tip for the photographers watching these videos. Pay attention to color temperature. Lina Zhang covers T Magazine, and although I normally hate when landscape photos are turned 90 degrees for a cover, I think the text helps with the composition. I really enjoy the work of photographer Jack Davison. His November British Vogue cover of Saoirse Ronan was the best cover of the magazine that year, and here again, he is masterfully harnessing the very dark blacks in the shadows for a graphic statement. The jagged edges of the rock at the top of the cover look like torn paper and make the different layers of the image feel like a collage. I can see by this image that he likes the outstretched arms. This shot I love as well. Noor Arita covers Harper's Bazaar Arabia. Both of these covers are great. The styling and the set design are working in tandem, everything is well composed in the frame, and the story is crystal clear. Even down to the watch she is wearing here, a more traditionally masculine, larger face, it supports the narrative that she means business. No notes here, these covers check all the right boxes. Kit Butler covers L'Officiel Homme Italien. very moody and dark, but his sharp features can handle this type of dramatic lighting. Some models are very difficult to photograph in certain angles. Kit does not have that problem. In the editorial, I wish it was him stomping and splashing in the water. Maybe in some of them it is, but in most of the photos, he doesn't look like he is in motion. Arena Homme Plus has a bunch of covers, and no surprise to me that the highlights are these by Alistair McClellan. The models are lit so beautifully, soft but not flat. We have full tonal range. These vintage Armani sweaters photograph really well in black and white, and there is an innocence and sweetness to the photos. This cover of Joel is cute. I like the colors, but I love these two photos of him. They look timeless even though he is wearing Versace Spring/Summer 2026, and you can feel his youthful spirit. This cover of Ollie by Oliver Hadley Perch, 10 out of 10 for the use of color. Especially with the golden blonde hair that echoes the gold details of the military jacket, this is a masterful execution of a cover that grabs your attention. Joe Alwyn covers GQ Germany, and I think photographers Sean and Sang are big Swifties because they really did Joe a disservice with this shoot. There's not a single thing in this photo that I like. This is my pick for the worst cover of the month. I cannot believe that they photographed him with a horse, an animal that is so tied to glorious depictions in art, and this is what we got. Joe looks lifeless. The facial hair is not helping at all because it's all so low on his face and neck. This lumpy leather jacket does not photograph well here. I think just without the jacket, the photo would be better, but still, if you're gonna have a horse, utilize the horse in a way to create something beautiful, showing off the lines, power, and structure. We have 3 covers for the debut issue of Harper's Bazaar France Homme. This is clearly the best of the 3. You can tell the look is from Jonathan Anderson by the casting. It's the same type of boy as this Loewe 2018 campaign by Mizell. Yes, the accessories are overwhelming, but I like this warm light on his shoulder that matches his hair. It's a very clean execution. This cover, why even bother putting this to print, especially for the debut issue? Same for this 3rd cover. And that is where today's review is going to end. But for more about the fashion industry, check out the links below. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the covers this month, and be sure to subscribe to find out who comes out on top next month in the battle of the covers.